We got hards on. We're going to the end.
Hello, guys. Welcome back. I'm a little bit late. I know. I'm a little bit later than usual. It took me a little bit longer, all right, in the kitchen to cook this one up. And it's not even the craziest, most no, groundbreaking. That's the one idea. We're gonna meet the rookies. Guys, come out. No, that would be good. That would be nice. That would be better. No, I've basically done my own research because ChatGPT is literally a waste of time. I asked it like, give me a quick breakdown of I was gonna okay, hands up, I was gonna pretend to do research, but really ChatGPT was gonna do it for me all in 4 seconds. But I've used it before. I'm aware that it just lies and comes up with bullshit. It is way less useful than choosing a simple search engine. I thought it was at least a copy and paste machine. It barely even does that. I said, tell me about the six rookies. First of all, it was leaving out information that I needed. It was getting things slightly wrong in terms of finishing positions. So I was like, I must have double check everything anyway. And then I go for every single rookie. I go through Jack Doohan, Bortoleto, Kimi Antonelli, Behrman, Isaac Hadjar. And I get to the end and it's like Will Grigg or something. I'm like, who the fuck is Will Grigg? That's what I type back in and it's like, oh, sorry, I meant Liam Lawson. How do you even get that wrong? Anyway, that's not the point. The point is I went through and I did it all myself because I wanted very specific information, basically. I wanted to find out any interesting fun facts about each of these drivers, sort of their upbringing, if they had a humble upbringing, if they was born from millionaires. If there's any bit of some interesting information I could gather, right? And then on top of that, I wanted to know not so much their karting history or even like F4 and that kind of stuff because that's too confusing. Either you're in British Formula 4, you're in Italian Formula 4, you're in a different kind of championship, you're in, the esports FM Football Manager 2027 league, you're in, whatever. So I'm starting from F3 because it's just like a unanimous thing. Everyone goes through it and then F2. So I just wanted to know how they did in F3, if there was in F3 for a year or 2 years or more. Same with F2. So I basically what I've got here is the category they was in each year, starting with whenever they first entered F3, the team they was with, who their teammate was, and where other notable drivers were in that league. Like if Piastri was in that league, so you could compare how he was doing to him, or like a Logan Sargent, so you could see how they can compare. So we can truly get down to it with not only who these drivers are, where they've came from, where they're going to go, Cotton Eye Joe, but if they should actually be rated, Because I feel like people like Lance Stroll won F3 or F2 or stuff before maybe. But it's like if you won it in your third year or if you won it but you didn't have great competition, I'm not saying this is down to Lance Stroll. I think he actually had decent competition in some of the seasons or some of the stuff he won or whatever. But it's just sometimes it can be misleading basically. And also I remember I was doing my predictions and I was kind of talking about certain drivers and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy's getting 0 points. He's leaving immediately. And then you go and you check through their stuff and you're like, oh, he's the second coming of Verstappen then. My bad. So we're gonna go from all. We're gonna start off with Jack Doohan, who is 22 years old, making him one of the older rookies. I think maybe the oldest rookie. Coming through this year. It could also be Liam Lawson. I assume Lawson for some reason was just 100% the oldest because I just feel like he's been around for so long. He's just been hanging about. And also his general energy, like he walks around like he's like 40 years old, like fucking hell, I not got my fucking chance yet. When it's just like, oh, he's 22 and he's actually, yeah. And also like, anyway, we'll get to Liam Lawson in a minute. We're gonna start off with Jack Doohan, who's a little bit more meek, a little bit more timid than I thought when I was listening to through interviews. I know he's like a fan favorite on Twitter in a similar way that like Lando Norris is, which by that I mean he has like TikTok edits for him and stuff like that. I just expect him to be a little bit more out there and stuff, but he seems a bit more quiet and timid and stuff. And he's from a racing family. The Doohans are apparently a credible racing family. His dad was a 5 times motocross champion, which I think is like motorcycles, right? Motorbikes. And it was 500cc, which I thought was just something completely tied to Mario Kart, but no, it turns out Mario Kart got it from real life, which that does make more sense. Well, maybe I'm just misreading the situation, and his dad's just an amazing esports player, and he's the 500cc champion with Diddy Kong. I don't know. I didn't look too much into it. All I know is that he's from a racing family, essentially. And that means you got a bit of dosh, you got a bit of cheddar ching, probably. Although not as much as, I'm not saying he's like a billionaire, like a Norris or whatever. But what I will say, well, actually, should we get, now we'll do the fun facts now. Let's not break up the momentum here. Is that, and I don't know how true this is, right? But he's part of a racing family, 5-time motocross champion. He got gifted his first go-kart at either the age of 9 or 7, right? The details are a little bit iffy. I've saw different sources saying different ages. Does it really fucking matter? Because he got gifted his first ever go-kart by Michael Schumacher. Now, I don't know if this is like a normal thing, and like if you're just great, if you're like a goat, just gifting out go-karts, like, you know how Tom Cruise has that cake he gifts out every year or whatever? The Tom Cruise cake, either on his birthday or on Christmas or something. And it's like this pineapple cake, I think, or something like that. And if you're on the list, it's like, oh my god, this is an honor, I got the cake from Tom Cruise. Apparently it's mid anyway, but everyone says it's an amazing cake, and you want to be on that list. It's like a high society thing, right? So I don't know if it's like Schumacher's just sort of, one day you open up a present and it's like, oh my god, Schumacher knows I'm a good racer, and it says from Schumacher. Or if it's more personal than that, and like Schumacher shows up at your house, or like you're at an event and Schumacher's saying, he's like, hey, do you want this race car? Like, I don't know what this really means, apart from he apparently got gifted his first ever race car by Michael Schumacher. And that's what we're up against, folks. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just growing up in like Croydon, you know, and you want to be a race car driver, this is what you're up against. We're up against 7-year-olds getting gifted their first race car by the GOAT, question mark, you know what I mean? So like, it's difficult to make in a sport. That's why you gotta give credit to some of the people. Like, even though I'm not a massive fan of Ocon, people like Ocon and, you know, the people who really came up out of it, you know what I mean? And that's his first like memory in racing, apparently. Schumacher gave me and my sister 2 go-karts. I mean, I think on Christmas I was maybe 2 years old, 3. And Michael Schumacher, I mean, now this one's saying that he was 2 or 3 years old. Either way, let's go through his like categories and stuff, right? So he was in F3 in 2020. That's when he first entered it. And he finished 26th. But to be fair, he was racing for HWA Race Lab. Not heard of them before. They're probably shit. Which apparently is something you gotta learn. Apparently, like, it is or it isn't a spec series. Can't remember which one, but basically, on the surface, the cars are all the same, but apparently they're not actually, and you need to be with a good team still. It's like F1. And I don't know if that trickles down all the way to F3, or if that's only an F2 thing, but I've heard at least about F2. Either way, in 2020, he was 26th, and his teammates was Enzo Fittipaldi, who was 15th, and Jake Hughes, who was 7th. So it's not even like he was 26th, though, in a bad team, but he was beating his teammates. He did lose to both of his teammates by a considerable margin, but I didn't go so deep to find out if this is Enzo Fittipaldi's second year in F3 or Jake Hughes' second or third year in F3. Like, I don't know. It could be both of their first years, but either way, in this same season, Oscar Piastri came first, which I'm pretty sure was his first year. And he was probably with a decent team, but I'm pretty sure this was Piastri's first year in F3, because then Piastri do the thing not many drivers do, even the good ones, which is go into F3 in your first season, win it, go into F2 in your first season, win it, and go into F1. But I think Piastri done that. So Piastri was first this season. Another notable mention was Sargent was third this season. Remember him? I know this is like the greatest hit, we're going back. And Lawson was in this season, he finished 5th. The next season, he moved to Trident, which is a team I have at least heard of. We're not talking about the gum. I don't think there's any connection there. But this is a team I have at least heard of, unlike FH. I can't even fucking remember. And in 2021, he finished 2nd this year. So big jump. Clearly, the team did make a difference. His teammates was Clement Novalak, who was 3rd just behind him, and David Schumacher, who also part of the Nepo family. I think he's the cousin to Mick Schumacher. And he was 11th that season. And in this season, Sargent, still in F3, he was 7th this season. So he had a slightly worse season. Don't know if he was at the same team or not. But then after that, Jack Doohan makes a jump to F2. And he has 2 seasons in F2, both for Virtuosi Racing. He finishes 6th in the first season in 2022. His teammate's Marino Sato, who I do know vaguely, and I know he's not the best teammate. Only because when I play F1, and at the career mode, I would always pick Sato as my teammate, I think, or at least when I owned the team. I don't know, he was pretty low rated, so that's just what I'm going off, basically. A video game. Lawson was in this season, he was third. Sargent was in this season, he was fourth in F2. So the Sargent stepped up, and I don't know how much. I'd be curious if anyone can let me know how much it matters, like what team you're in. But Sargent, like, doing consistently well and consistently better than Jack Doohan, it has to be said, across the category so far. I mean, to be fair, in the prior year, Sargent did finish 7th and he was 2nd, but I don't know. So far, I feel like it's pretty even, if not Sargent edging it. And then in the following year, his teammate was I can't even know how to pronounce that. Amaury Cordell. He was 20th and he was 3rd, so a huge gap there. I feel like that means a lot. And Behrman was in this season and Behrman finished 6th. So that's Joke Doohan, 22, from Gold Coast. I didn't mention that. Queensland, Australia. I feel like you get some decent amount of racers from that part of the world, the Oceanic region. You know, your sort of New Zealand, Australia place. To be fair, I don't think you get many New Zealand drivers. I'm just saying that because of Lawson. But I feel like in recent times, there's been some good Australian talent coming through. Could Jack Doohan join the list? I don't know. Some saying he won't even make it past 6 races. Apparently he's got like half a season contract max. And I feel like when you got someone waiting in the wing, they're really like going to be nitpicking you so hard that it's just going to be like, you know, the grass is always greener. And I don't know, when you got someone immediately there like Colapinto, and it's just like, even if he's doing better than other rookies, or he's doing what he should be doing to at least deserve staying out the season, they're just going to be so tempted by, Colapinto's over there. Like, they're going to want to try it out, you know what I mean? So I feel like it kind of feels inevitable. He's going to have to like go above what is even expected in a way, just because of now that presence behind him, but we'll see. Next driver, let's talk about Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar is 20 years old, younger by 2 years than Doohan. And for some reason, out of all these drivers, if I had to like pick one, I don't know anything about him, but I would have went forward and said, Isaac Hadjar to me comes across as the pay driver, or he comes across as the one who's shit, but he's somehow found his way into a seat. But I would say, through looking through his like seasons and shit, that ain't the case. Born in Paris, which seems like a weird place to sort of be, like, I don't know, main cities feel like a place where you wouldn't typically see drivers. And maybe that's just because in England, there's usually a healthy amount of drivers in F1 from England. None of them are from London, you know, that most highly populated region. They're all from just outside of London, like in those rich, slightly more rural parts that are like half an hour outside of London, where it feels like there's more of a chance of higher income families and places where it's more like racetracks that are easily accessible, basically. Like, I think Lando's from like Surrey or Brighton or something. Oliver Behrman, obviously, Chelmsford. I mean, George Russell, Kings Lynn. Like, these are places when you get on like the what are they called? You know, those trains that travel out to those places, like to Cambridge and stuff. When you go like King's Cross, you go past these Kings Lynn's and these Chelmsfords, or these, you know, Hamilton, Stevenage, I think. So it's kind of weird to me that he's from Paris, like just a direct central place. You'd kind of assume like if you're going to be a race driver from France, you're probably from like Saint-Étienne. You know what I mean? You're from Marseille. Probably not Marseille. You're from just like buttfuck random place in the middle of France somewhere. Like Carlos Sainz, I'm pretty sure he's not from like Madrid or Barcelona, right? Isn't he from like a little town somewhere in Spain? So a little bit surprising there. In F3 in his first year, that was 2022. Don't know who the fuck his teammate was. He finished 4th though. In this season, Behrman was 3rd, Colapinto was 9th. In 2023, he moved into F2, stayed with High Tech. He was with them in F3 as well, I believe. And he finished 14th. His teammate was Crawford, Jack Crawford, the American. That's not an American accent. And Crawford was just ahead of him in 13th. Behrman was 6th this season. And then in F2, he finished 2nd with Campos. His teammate was Pepe Marti, who finished 14th. Bortoleto, who we'll get onto in a minute, was 1st this season. Kimi was 6th. Behrman was 12th. This was the season just gone by. And Yeah, obviously Jack doing it racing this season because he was too busy waiting in the wings with Alpine, right? He was sitting on the pit wall, looking at the camera, doing little winks or whatever he was doing. I don't know. But nicknamed Le Petit Prost, right, by the French media. He's son of Yassine Hadja, a physician and former kart mechanic. I think he's got a decent amount of cheddar ching, what am I trying to say? Cheddar, ching, dosh, ready, wonga. He's got cash, I think. Former kart mechanic, that makes it sound quite humble, like he's just there with a wrench sort of tightening up someone's wheel nuts. But I don't know if that means like he was involved in racing, if he was like he owned like I don't it's hard when they say car mechanic, it's hard to know. A physician, so what, he's like a doctor or something? Just seems like an upper middle class family, maybe living in Paris. They got the money to put him into it. And to be honest, he finished second. He finished above Kimi, above Behrman last season. In his first year in F3, he was fourth, just behind Behrman, but ahead of Colapinto. I think he has a decent enough record. So far, though, we've not had any drivers who have straight up won shit, which I feel like surely the drivers who are coming into Formula One, it would make sense that they had at least one F3 and F2. And I thought that was the case because at the beginning, when I started watching, I looked back at drivers from F2 at that kind of time, just before I started watching, probably a few years before. Obviously, Leclerc came into the sport one of the seasons. Next season, I felt like you had Russell, Albon, and Norris, who were the top three of the prior season, and then they moved into the F1. That is more rare than what typically happens, apparently, because like at the time that makes sense. Yeah, the three best drivers from last year all duking out. There's three spots available. These three will get it. But no, like that typically is not always happening. Like so far, Jack Doohan's career is 26th, 2nd, 6th, 3rd. Hadja is 4th, 14th, 2nd. There's not a lot of winning going on here. And obviously there has been in karting, and obviously I haven't looked through the F4 stuff and all the other extra categories they could have been going off and doing. So maybe there's more wins coming from there. And obviously money plays a big part into it as well. But yeah, a little bit surprising. We'll move on now to Gabriel Bortoleto. I was going to say Gabriel, but he's Brazilian, so it's probably Gabriel. Gabriel Bortoleto, 20 years old, from Sao Paulo, okay? That's Brazil. You knew that already. He's an interesting one. What I got from him here is just 2 seasons. And I feel like the less seasons, the better. Like, Jack Doohan, we talked about 4 seasons here. Not the hotel. Isaac Hadja, we talked about 3 seasons. We're talking about Bortoleto here. We're only talking about 2 seasons, right? Which I feel like is a good thing to go off. You know what's a better thing to go off? First season in F3, 2023, he won the thing. Straight up won it. What I've been asking for, some straight up just wins. Don't know who the fuck his teammate was, but he didn't beat him because Bortoleto won. In that same season, Colapinto was in the league. He was 4th, right? He goes into F2 the very next year. His teammate is Kush Mayani, maybe. In this season, Hadja was 2nd, Colapinto was 9th, Behrman was 12th. It was last season, which means Kimi was in there. Kimi was 6th, right? And immediately wins again. This is kind of what I was talking about. And I didn't know this. There is no hype about Bortoleto. I've not seen. Whenever I hear people talk about like drivers, I hear a lot of like Robert Schwartzman. I don't know how these drivers did, so maybe they did win stuff. I'm talking specifically F3 and F2, right? But I hear a lot about Robert Schwartzman, Theo Pourchaire. I hear a lot of his name about. You heard a lot about Liam Lawson before he came into the thing. I feel like you hear a lot of hype about Jack Doohan. Who else? I'm trying to think of any names who jumping out at me that like I just feel like I recognize a lot. Drogovic, maybe. Either way, I don't ever hear people talk about Bortoleto. Like, and I'm not outwardly looking for information about F2 drivers. I'm just talking about what catches the wind, right? And I don't hear a lot about Bortoleto. But from what I can tell from my shit research, first season in F3 he won. Then immediately first season of F2, he won. And in F3 he was with Trident. In F2 he was with Virtuosi. Maybe they were the best 2 teams for each year, but as far as I can tell, usually like the best teams are like Prema, Carlin, I know, were doing decent things. And maybe it's closer than I think it is. So as long as you're with like one of the top 4 teams, you've got a good enough chance. If you've got enough money and if your engine isn't fucking up all the time, whatever. But yeah, I mean, F3 to F2 immediate wins. I mean, in recent times, I think that's been done by Leclerc, like I mentioned. I think he won F3. At the time, it was like GP3 or whatever it was called. Right, but it's the same category. it was the third tier. And Leclerc won that, straight into F2 won that. Russell obviously won F3, or maybe it was GP3 at the time as well. And then straight into F2 won that. Piastri obviously won F3, immediately won F2, did that. Don't know if I need to mention this, but Leclerc, Russell, Piastri, all very good drivers. And I kind of just wrote him off because he went straight into Kick Team Sauber. Maybe it's like a similar thing that happened to Russell. You know, he's been fucked, basically. You know, Russell came first. He got Williams. Right. At least you're in F1, right? Norris came second. He got McLaren. Better. Albon came third. He didn't get Red Bull immediately, but he was very soon in a Red Bull. Best. You know what I mean? So it was like, it feels like these should be switched. But this is just how it works, I guess. Money plays a big part. Obviously, Norris's dad's was like the 500th richest man in the country or something. He's like a billionaire. That can help you get that kind of McLaren seat. Russell ain't poor though, you know. And Albon, I guess being part of that Racing Bull family, a lot of sponsors, I guess, because he's probably like the most humble upbringing. What have we got here? His father, Lincoln Oliveira, serves as chief executive officer and co-owner of the Stock Car Pro Series in Brazil. He founded Americanet in 1996, which merged with Vero in 2023 to become one of the largest internet service providers in Brazil, with a revenue, apparently, of 1.9 billion. This man is, I was about to say caked up, but that means something else. This man's got cheddar ching. Why do I keep saying that? I feel like I'm accidentally saying slurs. The man's got cash. I'm digging a hole. He's got money. He's got a lot of it. And talking about Russell being able to secure a seat, or not Russell, Norris maybe. And I don't mean straight up buying seats, but you got a lot of money. You can make sure shit happens from an early age. I mean, talking about when they're like 14 years old, already looking far ahead to make sure you're in the right place, you're with the right academy, you got things lined up for you on the way, right? And he had immediate wins in F3 and F2. His dad owns like race teams and internet providers that are merging with people, and he's got cash. He's an executive officer and co-owner of these companies. But maybe it's just a part of the world thing. You know, Norris is English, Bortoleto is, who I might not even be saying his name right. He's Brazilian. Maybe it's just like one of those things where it's just like you're getting less opportunities because of that. I wouldn't even be that surprised by it. But he's one to watch. He's one to watch. Because even if he has a mid-season that earns 0 points, it doesn't necessarily make me want to change my driver standings too much. Because it's like, what can you do if you're with Kick Team Sauber? George Russell, yeah, as good as he was, guess what? You're in a Williams, mate. So for those first 3 seasons, which were his only 3 seasons in there, you're getting basically 0 points. And when you get your first point, you will be crying on live TV. So, you know, I don't really know what to say if it's going to change my predictions. But now I'm starting to think, if he has a very mid-season, doesn't do anything, they'll probably still keep him because, like, he's proven to be good with, and if there's better machinery, he'll probably do it. How long have we been going for? Like 23 minutes. And I've spoken about 3 drivers. Okay, so we're halfway. We're making okay. We probably need to pick it up a little bit. We're going to Oliver Bearman, who's 19, making him the youngest driver we're talking about so far. With that being said, though, he has 3-4 seasons we can go through here. I mean, the first season in F3, I don't think he really raced. I think he was still in F4. So he raced like 6 races. So we're not going to talk about where he finished in that season because it's just like, he didn't race the whole thing. So he was probably near the bottom, but asterisk next to his name. He then raced the next 3 years all with Prema. This is one of those things. I don't know how good he was in the junior categories and in the karting categories, but how much does money have to play into this? Because he's got money. He has got cash. Yeah, I don't know how much money plays into it. Like, because he was with Prema straight away from F3 and then in F2 and then F2 again. And it's like, is that because in the karting in F4 he was just doing a really good job? Is that because his dad is Wedge Man? I mean, like, his father is a founder and chief executive of the insurance firm Aventum Group. Haven't heard of him? Look at the front of his race jersey. It's on it, front and center, right over the heart. You know, it's on his race suit. So that goes without saying, they're not doing poorly, are they? You know, they're not exactly a little starter group, a little fucking GoFundMe. They've got cash. He attended King Edward. I'm not good with Roman numerals, and I haven't checked if this is right. I'm gonna go with Forth. He attended King Edward IV Grammar School. before he left school at the age of 16 to join the Ferrari Driver Academy in Italy. I mean, what a flex that is. Yeah, I'm just dropping out of school at 16. Why are you going to go do an apprenticeship down at local dealership? No, mate, I'm joining Ferrari. Oh, you're going to go do an apprenticeship down at Ferrari car dealership? No, I'm driving in their academy. I'm joining Ferrari. I'm going to Italy, mate. Like, the flex usually when you're at school, oh, I'm leaving class early. I got football. We're going to go play fucking All Saints Trinity School. I'm fucking captain. You're walking out of the room in slow motion. Everyone thinks you're a fucking G. You know, you're trying to act like you don't give a fuck. This is normal to me. It's not fucking normal. You're gassed out of your fucking mind, mate. That used to be the flex. Now it's I'm leaving class early, school in general, because I'm joining Ferrari. Either way, what interests me is this King Edward IV Grammar School, right? I'm like, okay, I'm interested in this. Where do rich people go to school? This isn't like a college or a uni or anything. It's just obviously up to 16. It's just like a secondary school essentially. But apparently it's old as fuck, and it's called King Edward IV Grammar School because it was founded by King Edward IV. Don't know when he was knocking about, but apparently the school's like 500 years old. It was rated the 9th best school in England in 2025. It's a school for all intents and purposes, but it's old as hell, and it was founded by like a monarch. I don't know how old King. Let me Google King Edward IV. Like, is this just not as old as I'm thinking? I'm thinking like, you know, back in the day when you're shitting in buckets and chucking out the window. Like, let's Google him. King Edward the Fourth. I just want to get a gander at this. Oh wow! Wait, this is a painting. To be fair, maybe didn't look that. Well, okay. Well, here's one thing that proves he's old. There's no photos of him, so there's that. Only paintings. King Edward the Fourth, warrior king. People still fighting on horses back then. This can't be right. Wait, let me double check my Roman numerals. Roman numerals converter. Yes, I'm a child. No, I'm pretty sure it was 1V, right? And I'm pretty sure that means 4. No, it's VI, not IV. Wait, it's VI, not IV. It's VI. Okay, no, it's not fourth. He's Edward VI. Okay, that makes a big difference. That could be generations later. Wait, hey Google. When was King Edward IV born?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Hey Google. When was King Edward IV born?
Edward IV was born on the 28th of April, 1442.
Right, yeah, 1442. I think, is it? I think that's a little bit more than 500 years ago. So probably not that one. King Edward the Sixth. This is why we double check and fact check things. Okay, even still, this man looks like he became king as a child. His photos, or he's a little boy. Okay, now we're just doing like history stuff. And now I want to Google when he became king. It looks like he became king as a kid. He died. How did he found a fucking school? He died when he was like 20. I guess people were doing stuff when they were younger back then. King Edward Sixth, was king of England and Ireland from 28th of January 1547 until his death in the 1553. That could have just been natural causes, you know. It was a different time back then. He could have probably just caught a cold. He was crowned king on February the 20th, 1547, at the age of 9. You know, this is kind of like, not what, like symbolic kind of, or this could reflect Ollie Behrman, crowned king, like Ferrari. It's a has, but you know, he's a Ferrari Academy. He was driving a Ferrari as a reserve driver, that doing the business last year. Crowned king at a young age. He's got that baby face. He's 19, sure, but the king who founded the school in which he attended was crowned king at the age of 9. So yeah. Also, King Edward Sixth. Sorry, I keep doing that. The only surviving son of Henry VI, I think. Henry VI was the one killing all his wives. There's some good history here, guys. We're doing like this is a Formula One podcast. Sorry, just caught myself there. Apologies about that. But basically, that like I said, I wanted to find a little factoids about these drivers. If there's anything interesting, I'm a pounce on it, because some of these people, not gonna lie, they're boring as fuck, mate. Other than not much going on. Either way, we've not even talked about his races. Basically, in his first proper year racing a full season in F3 of Prema, 2022, he finished third. His teammate was Arthur Leclerc. That's Charles Leclerc's younger brother. And he finished sixth, and his other team was Jack Crawford, the American. He was seventh. Hadjar was in this season, he was fourth. Colapinto was in this season, he was ninth. Then he went into F2. In his first year in F2, he was sixth. His teammate was Vesti. Vesti beat him. Interesting. That's interesting. But we're going to get into, no, sorry, that's not Vesti. I don't want to put any bad news on Vesti. We'll get into that after. Yeah, his teammate beat him second, and he was sixth. Don't know if that was Vesti's first year in F2 though. It was for Behrman. That's what I do know. And you know who also beat him this season? Jack Doohan. Although this is 2023. 2023 in F2. Was this Jack Doohan's first year in F2? 2023 F2. This was Jack Doohan's second year, to be fair, and it was Behrman's first year. Although Behrman's driving with Prema, Jack Doohan's driving with Ridolfi. You know, take what you will. And in his second year of F2, he was 12th. He got beat by his teammate Kimi, who was 6th. Bothelot was first, Hadjar was second, Colapinto was 9th. But we know that he missed multiple races this year. He probably wasn't even fully focused. He already knew he had a seat in F1. And he missed multiple races because Carlos Sainz was getting his appendix ripped out of his chest, or wherever your appendix is. And, stomach, I don't know. And, yeah, he was racing like 2-3 times in Formula 1. So there is that. But yeah, we spent a lot of time there on Behrman. I got carried away by history, something I don't even like. Moving on from there, we got Andrea Kimi Antonelli, the youngest driver, joining us this year in Formula 1. He's 18 years old. He's from Bologna in Italy, right? And all I have here is 1 year from Kimi. Not because Kimi started racing from birth in F2, but just because I'm only looking at, specifically, I've confined myself to F3 and F2. Kimi was racing in these weird categories like Formula 4 regional thing in Italy and this and that, and over here, stuff that is too hard for me to track and compare to everyone else. I haven't looked at it. And then he skipped F3. He skipped a year like a little child genius, like a little Sheldon Cooper, right? But he did it in a racing sense, which is way cooler. And he went straight to F2, which was what all the big news was about, all the Pavlova. And I watched the videos at the time, Tomo F1, these other F1 YouTubers talking about why Kimi is meant to be like sort of Jesus back on earth and stuff, turning water to wine. He was like winning stuff. He was doing Lewis Hamilton level things and races in different categories. But out of the categories I'm talking about, I've only got one season here. It's F2. It was with Prema. It was last year. He finished 6th. He beat Behrman, who was 12th. But we just spoke about why that could have been the case. And yeah, a bit of an unknown quality, at least by the data I've got. If we look at some of the little notes I've wrote down here, his father, Marco, is a sports car racing driver and owner of the San Marino-based AKM Motorsport Racing team. San Marino, tiny place in Italy. I think it might be classed as its own little country. And his father owns a team, like a racing team in there. So he is probably the second richest driver. It's hard to say, actually. It could be the third. I would comfortably put probably Bortoleto more rich ahead of him. And then between him and Behrman, I would say he's probably ahead of Behrman. I don't know how good this Aventum insurance company is. Could be the same. I would argue though, Kimi Antonelli's money is a little bit more old money, and Behrman's a little bit more new money. Either way, who gives a fuck? Me, for some reason. He competed in the Italian F4 Championship. Oh no, sorry. The team his dad owns competed in F4. Makes sense. So he may have been racing for his dad's team, sort of Lance Stroll style. Now I think about it, when he was racing in F4 and stuff. So there's that little leg up there. You know, keep note of that, guys. He shares a middle name with the first name of obviously Kimi Räikkönen. So you would think, because apparently Kimi's came out and said there is no relation here. Although some people basically call bullshit on that and say, no, you kind of blessed him with that as his middle name because it's like a thing people do in Italy a lot. it helps like will drivers to or like sports people in general to become the thing. It's like manifestation. It's just like a tradition type thing people do. Apparently that's not the case, right? This is kind of weird. Apparently the name Kimi, because his name's just Andrea Antonelli, right? Apparently the name Kimi came from a family friend, Enrico Bentagia, and he chose the name Kimi because his father wanted his son to have a foreign name after Andrea. That's what Wikipedia says. I don't know what that means or what the reasoning is behind that. I don't get that, or where that's came from, or what interview they've got that from, or where the source is. I don't know. But basically, Kimmy's dad's mate was like, call your son Kimmy, because it sounds a bit more foreign. It sounds a bit more, which sounds like something like an Essex mum would do in Basildon. Like, oh, I'm gonna name her like Jezame, Moldova, because it just makes it sound a little bit more fancy, and we'll double barrel that. It's like they just thought, well, we'll just call him Kimmy in the middle. By this logic, because it just sounds cooler. Call him Kimmy because it sounds more foreign and fresh. Apparently, that's what I'm getting from what Wikipedia is telling me. I don't know, kind of weird. He bypassed Formula 3, progressing directly into Formula 2, as he spoke about with Prema, alongside Oliver Behrman. That's great clout. That's great. That's a great flex. That is awesome sauce. Millennial in me just came out there. Moving on from there, we've got Liam Lawson, 22. From, I thought that said Puke Hole. Puke Kohei? Puke Kohei. Auckland, New Zealand. Let's just say that. We've got 4 years here to talk about, and that's alongside all the extra categories he was doing. Liam Lawson really had his fingers in all the pies, and I think this is why people have known about him for a while. He was like in these GT, other racing car series, driving the cars like these cars, like racing, like street cars, doing these cars, doing this. Like he was in a bunch of different categories, and he was winning some of them, but we haven't got them here. We just got the F3 and the F2, and we've got 4 seasons to talk about. His first year is the earliest year we can date back to in any of these seasons so far, which is 2019. Where he raced in F3, and I think 2019 was the first year F3 was F3, I think. Before that, it was all of like the GP whatevers. GP Engine, he raced for MP Motorsport in 2019. He finished 11th. His teammates were Vashaw, who was 13th. He beat him, and Laxonen, who was 23rd. And who else was in this season? A nice little connection here to a Formula 1 driver we haven't spoken about yet, who currently races. Yuki Tsunoda. And Yuki Tsunoda finished 9th. I don't know if this was Yuki's first year, second year, whatever. I don't know where he went from here because we don't see him anymore in any of the seasons going forward. But Yuki finished 9th, just ahead of Lawson in this season. Don't know who Yuki was racing with. He then stayed in F3 for a second season, but now he switched to High-Tech in 2020. And he finished 5th. His teammate was Dennis Hauger, who finished 17th. So he creamed him. And Max Futrell. Never tried to pronounce his name out loud before until that very moment. He finished 20th. And I think Max Futrell, we're just going to go with that. That's like Lando Norris's best mate, who's always defending him on Twitch, who has the Quadrant brand with him. I keep up with my social media stuff. So that was a name I recognized. That was interesting. So he raced alongside him. And in the season, Piastri was first, Sargent was third, Doohan was 26th. He then moved up to F2 in 2021. He finished 9th, still with High-Tech. His teammate was Yuri Vips, who finished 6th. We got some interesting information on Yuri Vips that was, I think, news to me, but I think I did kind of know it before, but I didn't really know who any of these people were at the time, so it's like a kind of a reminder to my brain. This season, obviously, Piastri also moved up to this category, so he won. And Guan Yu Zhou, someone we've not spoken about yet, was in this season. He finished 3rd, so he did not too bad for himself. Don't know how good High-Tech was in these times. He wanted to switch to the next season in 2022. He switched to Carlin, who I think Lando raced with, and not that that's relevant, but that's how much of a Lando stan I am. And he finished 3rd this year, so the switch was worth it. You know who his teammate was? Another little interesting connection. His teammate was Logan Sargent. That's how you pronounce it. And that's interesting. And when I checked, right, I was like, oh, Lawson, I back you so much at the moment. Please don't tell me you lost to Logan Sargent as your teammate in like F2 or something. He beat him, thank God. But I'll be honest, it was a bit of a Lewis Hamilton, George Russell scenario from last year. He beat him by 1 point in F2 for Carlin in 2022. Logan fucking hell. Too many L's at the moment. Liam Lawson finished third. Logan Sargent finished fourth. 1 point behind him. Doohan was in this season as well, finished sixth. Crazy. Very close. Because you would consider Liam Lawson to be a lot better than Logan. But in this category, for whatever reason, and I think they both raced all the races this year. Like, I think it's not like Liam was missing races to race in other categories or be a reserve or whatever it was. It was that close. Let's look at some of the factoids about him. He's the final driver we're talking about today, and arguably save the best till last. His parents had to sell their house to fund his racing career. It's the first thing we got here, which, I mean, from what I can tell, a couple drivers have stories like this. We had to sell the car, we had to sell the fucking fridge, we had to sell the dog, whatever it is. We had to sell the house in this scenario. Now, Esteban Ocon, they sold the house to fund the career, but it wasn't like we sold the house and we downsized, which I'm assuming is what happened here. Or like we sold the family home. We sold the holiday home. It's not like that. They sold the home and then just got in a caravan and went from race to race and fucking, grinded it out because they believed in the boy. This was probably a scenario where, like, we sold the house, mate, and then downsized to a different house, which is still commendable. Like, if you're staying in like a 3-bedroom place, you got like a sibling, both got your own room or something. Or there's probably in like a 4-bedroom house, probably like middle class, maybe downsized to like a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom place. Maybe now the kids got to share something. Maybe it wasn't even directly related. Maybe they were just downsizing because money was tight anyway. It's kind of hard to tell when people say stuff like this because it's very like popular to try and sound like, I don't know, to give your parents credit or to sound like you came out the mud or whatever it was. I don't think he's trying to do that. Either way, they sold this house to fund his racing career. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just trying to understand the context of that. I like Liam Lawson. He made his first free practice debut at the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix, which is actually the season where he was 1 point ahead Sargent. So maybe that does confirm he did miss a race or two at least that season because he was doing he was only doing practice, so I guess he could have still raced in whatever he was racing in an F2. But the reason he made free practice debut in 2022 in the Belgian Grand Prix is because the then reserve driver, Juri Vips, so if we spoke about Vips, yep, Vips was Liam Lawson's teammate in F2 in his first season, and he beat him. Has he ever been a teammate before we ever mentioned him? Nope. But essentially what happened is the then reserve driver, Juri Vips, basically said the N-word on Twitch. And incidentally, Liam Lawson was also present for that live stream. And I vaguely do remember this happening, kind of. But I didn't really know who any of these characters were at the time. But Juri Vips bloody PewDiePie'd it. And he said the N-word. And they were like, oh, we're probably not going to ask you to now race in this practice. It's not a great look. So Liam Lawson got to slide in, which is like kind of crazy, like the butterfly effect to that. Because like Lawson had done well in his career enough. 11th, 5th, 9th, 3rd. Compare it to like Jack Doohan. 26th, 2nd, 6th, 3rd. It's not too different. Probably slightly better. But when you can compare it to people like Bortoletto, first, or like Behrman, 3rd, 6th, 12th, you could argue there's people slightly better, and there's definitely people who have won categories, and like, it's not a guarantee definitely you're going to make it in, even if you're in the driver academy and stuff. Like, we've seen other people fall to the wayside. Very easily, Liam Lawson's career could have ended with him, or he could currently now be racing in like, Formula E with like Nick De Vries and Dan Ticktum. It's like, it's so easy to miss out, because Dan Ticktum's a name who I remember being around a lot, was a decent enough driver. It just doesn't work out for everyone like that. There's only so many seats. And it's kind of crazy that the reason he got to make his debut in free practice is because the then reserve driver, his old teammate from F2, said the N-word in a Twitch live stream. And Lawson was in that live stream, and luckily he kept it zipped. So team principal Christian Horner confirmed that Lawson had been promoted to replace Vips as the reserve driver for Red Bull Racing. And they made that permanent. So not only was it like, I get to come in now for this race, but it's like, I get to come in and I'm here to stay. I'm not coming back for 15%. I'm coming back for everything, Andrew Garfield style in what's it called? Social Network. You know, he's you know he gets it all. And he shared his role with Alpha Tauri, so he was doing double duties. And on top of that, he used to pick up Yuki's dirty socks as they lived with each other in Milton Keynes. There's some interesting lore going on there. I think most interestingly, probably with Behrman and Lawson for different reasons. And then you got Kimmy. Well, Behrman and Kimmy, they're just sort of, you find out just how rich they are. And then Lawson, there's actually some decent, like his way into the sport is actually quite interesting. And it's annoying because you probably won't see that. Like, if someone interviews him, they're probably going to be like, out of all the things, when they give you the little note and say these are things you can't ask about, I'm imagining sort of Yuri Vip's N-word is, you're not allowed to bring that up. But it's just like, wow. He's probably grateful. Mate, if you never ruined your own career, and I wouldn't, they wouldn't have, thank you, type of thing, you know what I mean? But those are the rookies. I would say, if I had to rank them from who I at least want to do the best, we'll rank them from who I think are probably the most talented here. And I guess I have to say Bortoletto is the most talented, but everyone gives a lot of praise to Kimi and says Kimi is the one. And Kimi's like in a Mercedes. We'll start with least. I think comfortably least, I might have to give it to Jack Doohan, mate. I'm sorry. Then I'd have to probably say Isaac Hadjers, and then next least. Then I would probably say, you got to remember as well, Liam Lawson's 22. Like, he's got 4 years on Kimi, 3 years on Behrman, two on Bortoletto. So I will put Lawson next. Then I will say, it's tricky, man. Bortoletto, Behrman, Kimi. I'll go. I'm afraid things are going to start dying, so let me just hurry this up. I'll go Behrman next, then Bortoletto, then Kimi. Sorry, I'm just going to stick with what the hype says. I'm going to believe in the hype for a second and say Kimi is the real deal. Timothy Chalamet. Right, now, in terms of who I like the most, I mean, I don't know fuck all about Isaac Hadjer, I can't lie. And he has a face like someone who, wants to be saying the N-word. That's harsh. I can't say that. I'll put Hadjer last. I'll put Bortoletto next. Then I'll say Jack Doohan. Then I would say Behrman, then Kimi, then Lawson. Lawson's my guy. I like Kimi. I like Behrman kind of, but out of all the British drivers, he's got nothing to go off, but he's definitely least that I care about at the moment so far. But yeah, those are all the rookies. God, man, that took so long. Oh, it took so long to go through as well, and I was getting really confused while I was doing it. Like, I was making mistakes and shit. But we've done it. And now, the countdown starts again until next week to try and think of what the hell I'm going to do until this season starts again. I might just watch some racing movies and do something about that, or a documentary or something. Or just something different, something a little bit less researchy. But yeah. Odds on. We got odds on. Going to the end. I'm going to try and think of something now. So, wish me luck.